writer's bridge, because we always like to say an author platform is a thing that you get up on and yell at people, whereas a bridge is a two-way street where you can meet your readers and your readers can meet you. And what we are all about is finding the ways that you can connect with the people who really need your words, who are going to welcome your words. We always cover a lot, and we always recommend that you plan to watch the video again. You will get a link to the video. It will come in your email tomorrow. And it's often helpful to watch it one more time. Today, we are going to discuss what exactly your opening needs to do to entice readers, agents, editors to read your book, your essay, your pitch, your query. And we'll also talk about the 3 key parts of a pitch. And then we're going to do some live editing of some courageous volunteers. But first, our question of the week. Dana is currently writing fiction, but is working on a memoir and is curious about whether to integrate social media or try to separate as I work toward the memoir. Both are heavy female readership, but readers of my fiction may or may not be interested in my trauma memoir. Ashley, what advice would you give Dana?
We always recommend make your platform, make your bridge building about you. Your readers are most interested in you. If they love your fiction and connect with your words and their story, they are going to connect with you as a person. Not every audience member has to love every single one of your content buckets or every single thing you share about, and that's okay. We all have different facets of each other, or of ourselves. And like when you're sitting with a friend, sometimes you will only talk about certain topics. With other friends, you talk about other topics. Treat your audience like friends, because that's really what they want to be. We say a lot, no one wants to be your customer. They want to be your friend. So keeping that all together and even talking about the process of transitioning to a new genre, and even talking about the insecurities, like I'm worried, are my fiction people going to want to hear about it? But this is why I'm going to share my process in transitioning. That really helps them connect with you.
Yeah, and if you can't hide it, like if it's not a beautiful, smooth segue, tie bows on it. Say right out front, this memoir that I'm writing may not be for all my readers, but if you like my fiction and you know someone else who likes memoir or you think should read this book, please recommend me to them. It's okay to go ahead and just call it out right at the beginning. So let us take a moment, and I'm going to show you guys some slides where we are going to look at some things about first pages so that we can all learn about them before we launch into some specific first pages. And we called this thing, why is this piece getting rejected? Because so often what's happening is we're getting rejected and we don't understand why. Main thing to remember is the reader's attention is a gift. And one of the things I learned from doing entertainment and doing stand-up comedy is as long as you have the reader entertained, you have that much more time with them before you have to entertain them again. So if you make them laugh for 10 minutes, you have 10 minutes of not laughing before you have to get them to laugh again. So engage them strongly right from the beginning. And then you have that much time to develop backstory or share a side story or get into the subplot if they are already engaged. And that's why it's so important to put your hook right up front, because you really want them to see your hook and be hooked before you dive into history and backstory.
So Allison and I both have backgrounds as performers, and my mom was a choreographer for figure skating too. And what she used to say to me was, Ashley, if you don't have a good 5 seconds and a good beginning 5 seconds and a good ending 5 seconds, it doesn't matter what you do for the other 3 minutes. It doesn't matter. When the audience and the judges are looking at the team setting up right before the music starts, and when the music ends and the judges are just about to write down their scores, that's when you have to be certain that you know what you are making them feel. Okay. So when we get that hook right at the beginning, and then like Allison said, you can take them on a bit of a journey. It doesn't have to be high the whole way through. No journey is. You take them through, and then you know where you want to leave them emotionally at the end. So then they're motivated to do what you'd like them to do.
Ideally, you want your second best material or your best material at the very beginning of the book, and you want your second best material or your best material at the very end of the book. I want to take a moment and give a shout out to my professor, J.D. Dolan from graduate school. And J.D.'s class was the first nonfiction class I had ever taken. And prior to that, I'd taken fiction and playwriting. And most workshops, if you've ever done a writing workshop where the teacher is giving feedback and the other students are giving feedback, the usual process is people sign up for their reading date, they send home copies of their pages with everybody else in the class. Everybody goes home, they read the pages, they mark them up. Then we come back, the person reads their piece all the way through out loud, and then we talk about what's working and what's not working. And this can be a more or less traumatic process depending on what your teacher is like. JD had a different method for this. JD said, you got to get used to taking your space because nobody out there in the publishing world is going to make space for you. You have to get used to volunteering and going, I have brought pages tonight and I want to be read. And so whoever got read at that night of class was the person who had their pages in their hand and lunged forward and said, I want to be read. Then JD would have us read out loud. And as soon as he heard the piece wasn't working, he would say, stop, stop. Can everyone hear what's not working there? And we would start talking about what's not working. It was harsh. It was scary as heck. But at the same time, we really understood the beginning has to grab the reader. There is no point in listening to the rest of an essay that is failing in the same way if it's failing like that at the beginning. And at the end of it, it was a point of pride if we could get through an entire piece without JD stopping us. And it really made us conscious of, okay, is this opening going to grab the reader? How can I make it even better? Is paragraph 2 going to grab the reader? And I think it was one of the most valuable things that I have ever taken part in because it really got me used to, you've got to grab the reader. You are not entitled to their attention. It is a gift. So fix your stuff and come on back. Always start with a hook. You want to get the reader on board as soon as you can. And what I like to look at in terms of the first pages establishing is you want to see the voice. You want to get a sense of a protagonist we want to spend time with, which is not the same as liking them or being a good person. Rules and theme. Like, how is the book going to function? What is the shape of the book going to be like? What's the larger thing that we're going to be talking about? And the quest. What's the goal of this entire piece? What does the narrator want? What are we going to pursue in the book? And we've got a couple of examples for you. So this is Maggie Nelson's The Argonauts, and she starts with October 2007, the Santa Ana winds are shredding the bark off the eucalyptus trees in long white stripes. A friend and I risk the widowmakers by having lunch outside, during which she suggests I tattoo the words hard to get across my knuckles as a reminder of this pose's possible fruits. Instead, the words I love you come tumbling out of my mouth in an incantation the first time you fuck me in the ass, my face smashed against the cement floor of your dank and charming bachelor pad. You had Malloy by your bedside and a stack of cocks in a shadowy, unused shower stall. Does it get any better? What's your pleasure, you asked, then stuck around for an answer. Before we met, I had spent a lifetime devoted to Wittgenstein's idea that the inexpressible is contained inexpressibly in the express. So you can see here, she's making it really clear what this book is going to be like. The voice is brutally frank and darkly funny. A protagonist who, from this very first page, this is the beginning of the book, we know right now, do I want to spend time with this person, or is this not my book and I'm going to close it and I'm going to put it back on the shelf? Lots of people think Maggie Nelson is a genius, loves the Argonauts. I have never read the whole Argonauts, so I don't know. But this is a first page that definitely says you're with me or you're not. And if you're not my reader, that's okay. This is not going to be your book. And I'm going to make that clear right up front. The rules of the book are clear. It's fragments, it's collage. They may not necessarily connect with each other. And the quest is exploration of the self. You know, we're hitting anal sex and Wittgenstein in the first 2 paragraphs. It's a lot. But the readers who love Maggie Nelson want to go with her on that journey of a lot. Ashley, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, we talk a lot about figuring out who your audience is as important or more important than figuring out who your ideal reader is. So if some of you are made nervous by looking at this, like, oh, no, I need to kind of warm people up and bring them in a little bit more softly, either in a full-length manuscript or in an essay. If anybody is lukewarm about it, like, no one's going to love it, right? Like the things that are the most extreme and really show you and really make people feel something don't have a lot of neutrality around it. So go for it a little bit harder and a little bit more directly, like Maggie does here. And the chance of you really getting your super fans through that is much greater than you just trying to tiptoe into something.
Exactly. So here we have a novel, Maria Semple, Where'd You Go, Bernadette? The first annoying thing is when I ask Dad what he thinks happened to Mom, he always says, what's most important for you to understand, it's not your fault. You'll notice that wasn't even the question. When I press him, he says the second annoying thing. The truth is complicated. There's no way one person can ever know anything about another person. Mom disappears into thin air 2 days before Christmas without telling me. Of course it's complicated. Just because it's complicated, just because you think you can't ever know anything about another person, it doesn't mean you can't try. It doesn't mean I can't try. And then our next page is a report card. So what we've got here is the voice. The voice is intimate. We get the sense this is someone a little bit younger. As it turns out, she's going to be coming out of middle school and going into high school. We've got the quest, find mom. It's really clear. It's right up front. I'm going to go find my mom. The protagonist is described on the next page as, quote unquote, a pure delight. So we know we're supposed to like her, and we're already starting to like her because she's fun to talk to. And the rules are, this is an epistolary novel. The entire first 2/3 of it is emails and clippings and letters and reports, and we're assembling the story from this pile of papers. But the rules are very clear right up front. We know exactly what we're getting into. Here,
question,
go ahead, Ashley.
Question here. Okay. Sarah asks, this seems to go against the old adage of not writing for an audience. How do you balance these concepts of both thinking and not thinking about your audience when you're writing? Okay, I'll answer this first, and then Allison, please give the advice as a writing coach. I always 100% write for my audience. I can journal and I can write first drafts, thinking about how I feel about the story coming out. But then when I craft it, either as an Instagram caption or when I was crafting my book, I am 100% focused on what emotional journey am I going to take my reader through in this scene or this chapter or the landscape of the entire book. I'm always focused. I'm always focused on how do I think the reader is going to be feeling when they're reading this sentence.
I agree. I think that first drafts and maybe even second or third drafts are where you're writing for you, where you are discovering the pure beauty of your story, what you want to tell on the page, whether that's a novel or an essay or a memoir or a play. The first couple of drafts are all about the author. What are you going to share with the world? But I think that after that, you do need to have a couple of drafts where you are focused on what is the reader going to get out of this. It is partly that I believe art is a consumer medium. I believe that art achieves its power by completing that circle with the audience, because a book on the shelf doesn't really do anything. It just kind of sits there. but it is challenging to balance when do you write purely for yourself and when do you turn that attention outward. And it does very much help me to say, okay, now I'm in the draft where I'm going to make this a sellable piece rather than just a piece I love to write. And actually, maybe the best example is one of the things I write that I haven't talked about very much with this group is I write plays for high school students, which if you write plays and you ever want to ask me about that, it is a surprisingly large and lucrative market. I will one day retire on my high school play royalties. I specialize in writing Shakespeare spoofs, so Hamlet and Drop Dead Juliet are two of my plays. I always write a first draft that is full of cuss words and potty jokes and all the dirty stuff that I thought of when I was doing those Shakespeare plays as an actor myself. And then I write the version that can actually be sold to a high school, that doesn't have words that the parents are going to complain about. It's not making me feel like it's any less my play. It's driving me to be more creative. How can I convey this sense of naughtiness without having to run to the F word as the easy way to get naughty onto the page? Louise points out really well, which I think is great. The difference is writing for what you think an audience will like versus writing to engage your audience. And yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. You're not pandering. You're not going, oh, I'm only going to write this because it sells, unless of course you're writing category ebook romance and you're churning out books because you want to write stuff that sells. But even then, there's still that sense of how can I engage the reader? How can I bring the reader into the world that I have created for them, that I have written for me to invite someone else into? It's like you're making a beautiful home to invite someone into your home. It's going to be yours, but you're also going to take it to a state where you're happy to have strangers see it. Let us look at Kiese Laymon's Heavy, which I think is really engaging to the reader while also being deeply personal and deeply specific. I did not want to write to you. I wanted to write a lie. I did not want to write honestly about Black lies, Black thighs, Black loves, Black laughs, Black foods, Black addictions, Black stretch marks, Black dollars, Black words, Black abuses, Black blues, Black belly buttons, Black wins, Black bins, Black bends, Black consent, Black parents, or Black children. I did not want to write about us. I wanted to write an American memoir. I wanted to write a lie. I wanted to do that old Black work of pandering and lying to folk who pay us to pander and lie to them every day. I wanted to write about our family's relationships to simple carbohydrates, deep fried meats, and high fructose corn syrup. I wanted the book to begin with my weighing 319 pounds and end with my weighing 165 pounds. I wanted to pepper the book with acerbic warnings to us fat Black folk in the deep South and saccharine sentimental exhortations from grandmama. I did not want you to laugh. I wanted to write a lie. And this is so powerful. And I cannot imagine anyone writing this thinking, oh yes, this will gain me many commercial readers in the court of popular media. And yet it is so powerful and so specific. The voice is urgent, painful, and rhythmic. It is a pleasure to read it out loud. Like I can feel those words in my mouth when I'm reading them out loud. The theme is breaking the power of old stories. So he is feeling like his race, himself, his family have been confined to an old story. And now he wants to break out of that story. And he's going to do it by being honest. And he's going to be honest by telling us right away, I'm going to tell you the real story. My quest is to tell you the truth. And that creates this deep sense of intimacy with the reader. Ashley, what do you feel about this?
I have so many feelings. I don't have a lot of words because that was something that pulled me in and just made me just sort of almost subdued into the emotion because it was heavy. I mean, that is the perfect first page. The way you have to sort of trip over your own stories as you're seeing and reading the writer telling their real story really gets you invested.
Yeah,
from the beginning.
There's so much vulnerability there. And it's beautifully crafted. It's absolutely beautifully crafted. I mean, I bet he spent ages on just these couple of paragraphs. There's not a wasted word in there. Let's take a look at one more example. And this one's an essay. And I actually brought this in this afternoon because I was like, we need an essay in here. This is from The Crane Wife, which was published in the Paris Review. And I think some of you might have read it when it came out a couple years ago. 10 days after I called off my engagement, I was supposed to go on a scientific expedition to study the whooping crane on the Gulf Coast of Texas. Surely I will cancel this trip, I thought, as I shopped for nylon hiking pants that zipped off at the knee. Surely a person who calls off a wedding is meant to be sitting sadly at home, reflecting on the enormity of what has transpired and not doing whatever it is I am about to be doing that requires a pair of plastic clogs with drainage holes. Surely, I thought, as I tried on a very large and floppy hat, featuring a pull cord that fastened beneath my chin, it would be wrong to even be wearing a hat that looks like this when something in my life has gone so terribly wrong. 10 days earlier, I had cried and I had yelled and I had packed up my dog and driven away from the upstate New York house with 2 willow trees I had bought with my fiance. 10 days later, and I didn't want to do anything I was supposed to do. She's on a quest. It's really specific. She's going to go on a scientific expedition. And then the subtext is she's going to find out who she is on this expedition. And we kind of know that from the material. And we kind of know that because it's an essay in the Paris Review. So we can assume that, this expedition is going to have a deeper meaning. The voice is honest and funny. The protagonist is in a pain that we have all felt. So we want to spend time with her because we want to see how she's going to experience that pain. And the theme is told to us both by the house with the 2 willow trees and also by the title, The Crane Wife. If you know the fairy story of The Crane Wife, the theme is pretending to be someone you're not to make a man happy and eventually having to be discovered as your real self. Ashley, what do you hear in this?
So this is one of my favorite essays ever. And what I really love about it is that frankness allows us to read further into her sentences. So the New York house with 2 willow trees, like that sentence says so much, because you can imagine when she was house shopping with her fiance, you can imagine how many people she told about the 2 beautiful willow trees, right? This house that we found that we put an offer on, and the willow trees, and people went, 2 willow trees, like all of these things that are beautiful, that are supposed to make us happy. And then we have that juxtaposed with the floppy hat and the pull cord. Like the details that she has in here, we can tell why they're there, right? Without her having to spell it out for us. Just the frankness really helps us read into it.
Emily points out it's so direct and the language is so simple, yet there is so much beauty in it. She never lapses into special writer voice. She's always just telling her own true story. Meredith says it's really relatable, and I agree. We've all been in the position where we had to confront that the relationship we had imagined was not the relationship we were currently having, and had to make a big decision about whether to go forward or not. So that's first pages. Let's just look a little bit at what editors want in submissions. They want them to be sent to the right venue. A lot of submissions go to the wrong place. And so every single one of you, as a person who is conscientious and does your research, is going to be head and shoulders above the person who sent a play script to a place that only publishes children's books. Strong opening, something that grabs them right from the beginning, just like a book. Voice, they want to know who you are right from the start. A solid, well-told overall point. What's the purpose? Why are we reading this? And it stops with impact and leaving room for the reader to think. So it doesn't over-explain the point. When I read stuff for brevity, very many of these 750-word essays either start 3 sentences too early or they end 3 sentences too late. They're either introducing a little too much instead of taking off like a helicopter and boom, we're in the moment, or they're winding up too much instead of just letting the emotion sit with the reader and letting the reader process that emotion. What editors want in terms of pitches, why this topic now? Like, why is it important right this minute? Why me? Why am I the best person to tell this story? And why here? Why is this publication the very best venue that we could put this story in? Why is it specifically meant to be in this venue? In a query, establish really quickly, what's the main conflict? Who are the main characters? And I just did some editing on some queries this afternoon. And the biggest issue I saw is that they're describing their book like they're reviewing their own book. So it is funny, it is quaint, it will make readers feel this, it will make readers feel that, it is evocative. And honestly, the agent is reading that going, really? Prove it. Because it's reviewing your own book instead of telling the story and letting the agent feel what the reader will be feeling. So it's really important to get the main conflict and the main characters right up front in your query, unless you have a compelling reason to lead with your bio or lead with your platform. Why you? Why are you the best person to tell this story? Which may or may not apply if you're writing a novel. But like, for example, if you have spent your life researching Annie Oakley and now you have written a novel with Annie Oakley as a main character, you might want to put that bit in. What market exists? Does my book talk about an issue that is in the wider world right now that people care about? Or are there comp titles that people who liked those books will also like mine? And for nonfiction, who are the readers and how will I reach them? So it's not just that I'm writing a book about my relationship to TV and 13 million people watch Netflix. Who are my specific readers and how will I get to them? Is there a club for people who watch old episodes of the Brady Bunch and that's who I'm going to reach?
For the main conflict, you hear people talk about like, what are the stakes, or did we show what the stakes were early enough? This is because we want the agent to be emotionally invested and worried or wondering what the hell is going to happen to these characters in the hook. The hook has to bring them in strongly enough that they're like, oh damn, I need to move to the pages to see if I can get an idea what's going to happen to these people. Just like the first couple paragraphs of The Crane Wife did for us. We wanted to know, what is she going to experience on this expedition that then is going to help her find herself? Like, we know in Heavy, we know what the stakes are right at the beginning, and we've been pulled in enough emotionally to really then want to solve the mystery, to want to get the answer.
Exactly. Pull them in, hook them. There's an exercise that I often recommend because many people's books start the story too late. We have somewhere around 30 to 50 pages of setup. My family, my background, no one will understand if I don't give this history. Very often we can plop the reader in later in the story. And the exercise I always suggest is you want to send pages 50 to 70 to a fresh reader. So you take pages 1 to 50 and you set them aside. You take pages 50 to 70, paste them in a new document and send that to a reader who doesn't yet know your book. You get the reader to list, this is what I know from reading these pages. Then cut those things out of the first 50 pages. If they know your dad is abusive and your mom is standing by from page 50, we don't need 3 scenes that show that in pages 1 through 50. Then the reader also lists what I wish I knew, what I'm confused about. Those are the things that you need to either keep or add concrete moments showing those details. Meredith says, you're saying there's too much backstory? Oh, so often. And Deb did the 50 to 70 exercise and very bravely chopped 50 pages off the beginning of her novel. It was throat clearing. She said it worked like magic. We'll do it all the time from now on. And it's not going to be the case that you need to ditch 50 pages every single time. But I'll tell you, I've had at least 5 clients out of my last 10 who needed to start around page 50. Trust that you can drop the reader in the middle. When you get the person to review it, make sure that they focus on your content and your information rather than on your writing or your style. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of your pages. I'm going to stop share on that window. And I am going to start share on another window So let's take a look at an essay here. And with all of these, we will share them anonymously, but you can certainly volunteer if you would like to reveal that it is you, or you can ask questions about anybody's piece in the chat, whichever you prefer, whatever feels good to you. So we're going to start on this thing here, and I'm actually going to move my computer to where I can type on it. So this is My Life as a Jewish Imposter. When I was growing up, I knew only one Jewish person. We were in the same class from kindergarten through our first year of junior high. I thought she was an atheist because she didn't celebrate Christmas or believe that Jesus was her Lord and Savior. So right now, we kind of know that it's heading towards like a larger religious tolerance, but it's a little bit weird to throw that in right at the very beginning. In my late teens, I lived with my boyfriend and an ever-changing cast of housemates. There were always a lot of those fat-bellied wine bottles that served as candle holders, gobs of multicolored wax spilling down the sides and holding the thing fast to whatever surface it happened to be on. We are so into backstory. We are so into backstory here. And I know the point is coming up that she's going to mistake a menorah for a candle holder, but I don't know where we are and I don't know why we're starting this story. Ashley, what are you hearing?
Wondering where we're going, where we're getting to, and also I'm going to just say it just like this: why I should care. So I want to feel something for this narrator right at the beginning that'll keep me reading. That's the only reason I read, is because I care. I want to have like a punch in the gut or something that makes me laugh out loud right from the beginning, so that I'm going to stick with it.
So imagine that this third paragraph is actually the beginning. I've spent more than half my life as one of the chosen. I've sent my children to Hebrew school, having struggled to hear from the other side of the screen as my son read the Torah portion for his bar mitzvah. I've learned to separate challah and recite the blessings. I still sometimes feel like an imposter. I don't belong to a synagogue. I don't light Shabbat candles. I've forgotten most of the prayers. I don't remember the dates of most of the holidays. Once, when the topic came up, a woman asked, "Are you a real Jew or a Jew by insemination?" It's a little more crass, she says here. I'd never heard the term before, and I hope I never hear it again. It sounded so crass, it hit too close to the mark. So what if we started the essay there? The other place that we might start this essay, and I kind of skimmed ahead here when I was first opening this up, there's a place around page 9 where the husband has become much, much more religiously observant than the wife. The fights continued. One went something like this: "You sabotage everything I'm trying to do." "What are you talking about?" "You screw the refrigerator light bulb in on Shabbos." "What? What the hell are you talking about?" "You do it so when I open the door, the light comes on. You know I'm not supposed to make a light." I'd not noticed the pattern, that it always happened on Friday night, that loose bulb in the fridge that I had to tighten every now and then. But that's how we communicated, in accusations.
Okay, so this pulls me in right away, because here we have, we understand the facts of the situation. We understand that the wife is telling herself a story about, oh, this damn light is loose. And the husband is telling himself a story every Friday night: my damn wife, she's sabotaging my attempts to be observant by making me make the damn light. And for years this is going on, right? Before they realize like what's actually happening here. And we've all been in that situation with a partner or a friend or a family member where we each have different perspectives of what is going on, and it kind of makes it makes our facts almost impossible to bring together, because we see it in such different ways.
And Emily points out in the chat, she was once advised to avoid "when I was growing up" as a first line. Find something else to anchor the reader to. And I would agree with that. There are so many specific things here. Sarah points out it's the tension that pulls her into this story. So I would say start with a place of maximum tension and then fill in backstory as you need to. Nice work, author. And thank you for being so brave and sharing your piece. And we will flop on to another one. Let me open up another one here. Okay, so this one is going to be a query. Sorry, I did that thing where all of a sudden I lost all my windows. Here we go. Query. All right. So, dear agent of choice, I'm reaching out with a query for a nonfiction book proposal. So generally, you don't want to say I'm querying, because in this, the medium is the message. They know you're querying. They know that's why you're getting in touch. So we can actually go with, I read that you are interested in any book by a good writer willing to work hard and spend a year plumbing the depths of some fascinating aspect of man or nature. Well, I'm willing and able, and I sure as hell have been plumbing the depths of a question that has been fascinating me for well over a year. Why are parents and schools working so damn hard and doing so damn poorly? So this is neat. There's a lot of voice in this first section, but I think you can tighten it up just a little bit. I don't know if you need I'm willing and able, but maybe you do. I'm a recovering journalist, so asking why questions is kind of like breathing for me. Sometimes the answers are bullshit and everyone knows it. We know you're going to swear in the book. Good signal. Other times the answers just don't add up, but you can tell the person giving them believes what they're saying. That's when my spider sense starts tingling that I've found a story. I feel like that's kind of already shown, and I don't feel like you need spider sense, which is not as original to you, author, as the other stuff that you're talking about. When I started working as a consultant for public schools in 2016, I was asking a lot of why questions because I started hearing something strange. Teachers, principals, guidance counselors were all telling me the same thing, that the kids coming into school were less disciplined, more impulsive, and harder to teach with each passing year. It was because of the parents, they told me. They just don't care anymore. There was no parenting going on at home anymore, they said. I would take out one of those anymores just to avoid the repetition. But these answers didn't add up. We've got the spider sense again. Ditch the spider sense. It's not as original as other stuff you say. Who were these parents who didn't care? Everything I heard and read told me that moms and dads were parenting their asses off. They were busting their butts every day to get their kids up, dressed, fed, out the door, homework done. They were making sure their kid had a blue t-shirt to wear on Tuesday because Tuesday was Spirit Day. And if they forgot, they felt guilty as hell, and they were stressed all the time about, well, everything. So what was going on in here? Other people's kids, one mom's quest to understand why parenting and teaching have become impossible, will dig into how and why things have gotten so hard for all of us who help raise and educate kids. Through interviews with parents, educators, and experts, I'll unpack the finger pointing between school and home and tell the story of what I learned in 3 parts: the parents, the school, and the kids. I anticipate a finished manuscript of about 75,000 words with 6 to 7 chapters in each of the 3 sections. I think you can leave that out because you're going to have a proposal anyway. So you are already long. This is a 617 word query, and the general advice is about 350 words max. Ashley, what are you hearing so far?
Okay, I got really interested in the paragraph that gave the title. And if you could scroll up a little bit, Allison, just so I could see that one. Yes. I started getting really interested in there, or actually parenting their asses off, right? And then there's this finger pointing that talks about in the next one. I think if we could combine all of this, if we could even start this off with parents are parenting their asses off and teachers think there's no parenting going on anymore. Like, just show at the beginning this tension and this contradiction that people are having about each other, sort of like the husband and wife with the light bulb in the fridge. One group thinks this, the other group thinks this. What the hell? And then the book is answering the what the hell question.
And the one thing I want to touch on before we move off this query, because I think we're going to have time to do one more before breakout time. The other challenge that we get here, so she's got great credits. It's really wonderful. After more than a decade working in print journalism, I worked for an organization that provides communication services to public school districts. So we know she's got the credentials to write this book. My writing draws on my skills as a journalist, my experiences as a parent, and my time spent working with school leaders and classroom teachers. This may or may not be relevant because it's kind of already shown through what you've already got. So I would say either take it out of the earlier or take it out of here. There's one major missing thing here, which is that we all just spent a year locked down having virtual school. And this book is gonna have to recognize that, even if the point of the book is, as we now go back, what can we do in terms of a reset? The book is just like slightly sidelined by what's going on in the world right now. And there's got to be a way to at least recognize in the query that that's what's going on right now. We have a really great comment from Kimberly. In workshop, I've observed the comments I get are, of course, through the lens of the reader. If one of my workshop mates is writing about mental health, they'll point out or have questions on mental health exploration in my piece. If someone's writing about relationships, their comments will be focused on that. Another might be writing about parenting and form questions about the narrator's children. What grabs one reader's interest is not always in the context of what I'm actually writing, and that's the challenging part of getting feedback on my content. Ashley, how do we handle that?
Okay, so Tara Sophia Moore wrote Playing Big, and that's the book I've bought for people as a gift more than anything else. I've purchased dozens of copies of that. She has a chapter on feedback, and what she says is feedback does not tell you anything about the quality of your work. Feedback gives you specific and precise information about the preferences of the person offering the feedback. So, you've already figured that out in your workshops, Kimberly. You can see specifically what your workshop friends prefer. The question I want to ask you is, who do you want to be pleasing with your work? If there is somebody in your workshop who you think has a keen eye for the kind of writing you want to be doing, you use their feedback. And the other ones just hear it as, okay, yeah, they definitely prefer a mental health angle. They definitely prefer parenting writing. So, Allison.
I tend to watch for who do I agree with when they say stuff about other people's writing. My first class with JD, the teacher who cut us off, I was watching it happen and like, holy crap, I have never experienced this before. This is crazy. And I wrote in my notebook, Dear Allison, you agree with everything he is saying about other people's work. So you're going to have to take it seriously when he says it about yours. I've been in workshops where I have heard my fellow workshop mates say stuff about other people's writing where I'm like, did you read the same piece I read? And I know to weight their comment a little less seriously, not because they're a terrible commenter, but because we clearly don't have the same taste. Their feedback is not going to be as helpful. And Louise has pointed out there's a wonderful book out now called Craft in the Real World by Matthew Salesses. And it's about audience and about workshopping. And there's a real trend right now towards a different kind of workshop where it is more inclusive, where it is more respectful of the individual writer. And that's a great book to read. I highly recommend it. Let us just dive briefly into one more before we go into our breakout time. Ashley, what was the author of the book that you just mentioned?
Tara Moore, Playing Big. I'm going to put it right here in the chat. Yeah, it is wonderful.
And her last name is M-O-H-R. So this is the beginning of a novel called Moving Pictures. Maggie Hirsch was too late. By the time she crossed the floor of Stacy's ice cream shop, her son Henry's head had already made contact with the pink and black linoleum tiles 3 times. He had selected a black tile upon which to release his frustration, and although she knew it was not a conscious choice on the part of her 2.5-year-old, the notion did enter her mind that even though there was an ugly gash trekking across Henry's forehead, and a room full of people finding more interest in her son's tantrum than in their own caramel sundaes, the black tile at least concealed the sight of Henry's blood. But with her son now thrashing in her arms, his tears and snot and blood mingling to leave a trail on her pale yellow cardigan, there was no denying it. There weren't enough black tiles in Stacy's ice cream shop, or anywhere else for that matter, that could conceal the disturbing fact that something was wrong with Henry. This is a little bit of a tell. You might want to just stop on or anywhere else for that matter. This outburst seemed to have come out of nowhere. Maggie had simply told him to stop spinning in his stool at the counter because it wasn't safe. Henry didn't take the news very well. There were many things Henry didn't take well, and the incident at the ice cream parlor was hardly the first. It wasn't even the first of the day. That afternoon, all 4 members of the Hirsch family were in attendance at Forest Grove Elementary, where Josie was in the school's performance of Annie. Maggie and her husband Daniel had debated taking Henry along, but their decision was made for them when their sitter canceled the night before. I've got my bag of tricks, Maggie assured Daniel, shoving a few of Henry's toy cars and a touch and feel board book into her leather tote. He'll be fine. And he was for a while. For a while, Maggie and Daniel were able to enjoy the show and focus their attention on Josie. We're in a bunch of different times and locations, all on the first page. We're in the night before when the sitter cancels. We're in the ice cream shop while the kid is having a tantrum. We're in the ice cream shop after the kid has had a tantrum. We are planning to go to the school performance. We are at the school performance, and then we are somewhere else. So you've got at least 5 locations and times in one page, and it's a little bit confusing to follow back and forth. Ashley, what are you receiving? You're on mute.
I am. I love where it starts, and I want to stay there longer. I want to stay there longer because anyone who has children or has witnessed children out in the wild has seen something similar to this happen. And just like when a baby is screaming on an airplane, everyone feels it. Everyone, the bystanders, that everybody feels it. So I would like to stay there more, and we don't need to go anywhere else yet. Like, what can you tell us more about the feelings that, is it Maggie? Is that the mom? Yep.
Maggie's the mom. Yeah.
Yeah. What else is going on with Maggie? What else is going on with the sister there? Like, it doesn't even have to stay on the one character, but what else is happening to give us more in that scene?
Yeah, I think we can stay a little bit longer in that specific scene because it feels like that's the scene where the mom is realizing, there was no denying it. There weren't enough black tiles in Stacy's ice cream shop or anywhere else for that matter. That feels like we're ready to go forward into, so what's she going to do? Because she's now in an untenable situation and she has realized, I can't live in the life I'm living in anymore. I need to change my life. But then we backtrack and it's like, we know that the outburst is coming out of nowhere because we've seen that kind of tantrum play out. Like, it's a tribute to the author's writing that it's already really clear that this tantrum is coming out of nowhere. It's already really clear that this is a bigger, weirder, crazier tantrum than most kids that age are going to have. And so I think you don't have to go back and further explain what's leading up to this. Ashley, any last words on that?
No, I loved how you took out that tell in there because we already knew. Like, yes, we can already read right into this. This is a familiar situation, even if people haven't had their own child with special needs or experienced something like this.
Exactly. So we're going to send you guys into breakout rooms for about 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody, to our last couple of minutes here. We're just getting everybody back in from the breakout rooms. Ashley, what are we doing next week?
Okay, so everybody has got the memo that writers, regardless of what path they take to publishing, are asked to do more of their promotion and marketing than in the past. So next week, we are going to be talking about book marketing. We're going to be talking about Facebook ads. We're going to be talking about creative ways we can market the book where it's less expensive, maybe a little more time intensive, a lot of different options for you, even to get more eyes on your pieces that are published, or if you have a book forthcoming or already out. Dusty Arab is going to be joining us to talk from the marketer's perspective and someone who has a lot of experience with setting up Facebook ads from the back end to help us with that. And we will, so tomorrow you will get the replay, and we had a question about how long the replays will stay up. Right now, they are up until the end of time. We may move them to another platform. We may get them on YouTube or somewhere else where it's not taking Google Drive storage anymore. But for now, you can access every Writer's Bridge episode. And I think are we at 17? I think
this is 16 or 17.
Yeah.
So yeah, Meredith, we send an email out the next day that will have a link to both this episode and every other episode we've done. And Ashley does a brilliant job of writing a timeline of where everything was in the episode, so that if you want to forward to a specific thing, you can. And our next meeting will be in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about marketing. And I also want to ask Dusty about content planning, because she is just a genius of planning a whole bunch of content at once so that it is easy. Feel free to unmute yourselves and let's have a beautiful goodbye. Thank you for coming to the Writer's Bridge.
Bye.
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 Next time.
Thank you, Ashley and Allison.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
I love you. Bye, buddy.
Bye.